Hey guys, thank you for checking out our video. My name's Sean Elders and this is Pinnacle Combat Arts. Like, subscribe, comment down below, hit the bell so you can be notified every time we get a new video. Today we're going to be talking about reality-based training versus martial arts. Let's get started. As a kid, I did traditional martial arts. When I got older, I met my stepdad and he started to teach me what reality-based combat, reality-based training is all about. One of the things that I think is super important is that you understand that when we're training, when you do martial arts, for instance, what I see today is very different from what I think and I know back 100 years ago, 200 years ago. There's a difference. And the difference is that one, in the martial arts, the reason why a lot of martial artists are just not combat effective anymore is because of commercial martial arts. Commercialism is the downfall of the martial arts as far as I'm concerned. And what I mean by that is the commercialism of you have a dojo down the street in the strip mall. When you open up a school, I had a successful martial arts school for 5 years and I hated it. Why? Because I felt restricted in one, the kind of culture that I wanted to create and have and maintain inside my martial arts space. I could not do that because of commercialism. Another thing was that people are rotating in and out of there. There is an expectation in the martial arts, and we have to make sure that that expectation is met. When we have a commercial space, you are not, insurance-wise, all these different things, they tell you what you can and can't do. In other words, they will not provide insurance for you if you do these type of combat stuff, okay? You're not allowed to do this, 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 and this. And if you do it, and when you do a claim on it, they will not provide their services to you and they will not pay for whatever happens in that situation. So with that, what happens is that you are not able to be protected. So somebody that owns a martial arts school, they're not able to provide the services that they maybe had learned or their teacher had learned, or wherever that martial arts style, where it came from, they're not able to teach. And they're not able to put you through the same type of combat training, okay, that the ancestors of that style did, okay? And so over time, it's gotten more and more watered down based on that. It's also based on the fact that in these combat training situations in martial arts, for instance, if somebody does traditional Kung Fu, let's say Shaolin Kung Fu, if you go to the Shaolin Temple 100 years ago, they were fighting each other, okay? But you go to the Shaolin Temple today, or you go to a Shaolin school in the United States, and guess what? They're not fighting each other, and they've got all this stuff going on, and they don't do the extraneous training. That's one. The other part is that the consumer itself, that person, okay, they are not up to do it. So what the teacher does, they want to get as many people as they can in there because it's about money. They want to make sure that they have it. So they're providing a service to the community, which means that they're no longer picking their students. In the old days, that's what you do. You pick your students, and if there's a student you don't like or you don't feel like they fit and they're going to work hard and do what they're supposed to do, you send them on their way. That doesn't happen anymore a lot in the commercialized martial arts, or maybe their temperament is not up for it, okay? So that's an important part of this whole aspect of the reality versus martial arts in today's world, okay? So commercialism is a big part of the reason why our martial arts today in the United States or any Western area, it's really watered down. And I'm not saying there aren't great instructors out there. I'm not saying that there isn't schools out there that do the more, but they do. I guarantee you they don't do the extreme stuff that 200 years ago they were doing, okay? Because of the fact that a lot of people, like a good friend of mine, he did Kung Fu, and he was telling me how when he first started with his teacher, that his teacher was strenuous. They were standing in, they were doing all these different things that were really hardcore, okay? But then over time, what he saw was the teacher can only maintain 4 or 5 students, and the teacher wanted it to grow his school and get real big and, obviously make a living off of teaching, okay? And so he had to change the way he taught to keep people in the school, because not everybody wants to stand, for instance, in this position for 45 minutes, okay, or whatever position, or what strenuous thing, or conditioning, or all those different things. So what I'm trying to teach and help you guys understand is, a lot of times what I hear is you go, well, that martial arts style doesn't work. Well, that martial arts style doesn't work. Well, one thing, some of these martial arts styles go back hundreds, even thousands of years old, okay? And they are based on combat situations that were based on back then. That's one aspect of this. Number 2 aspect is that those systems they put their students through strenuous combat, okay? Where they were really trying to hurt each other, where they were really trying to knock each other out, okay? Unlike what we see today, okay? The conditioning, the fighting, all that stuff was different, okay? And so I think that it's very important that you guys understand this. And what we have to do is we have to bring some of that back. Now, what I do with my students is, one, I realized I couldn't provide and train and teach the way that I wanted to in a commercialized space. I had to take things underground again. I had to take things and go into private sector again, because I could not provide what my students really needed to be effective in combat, okay? Believe it or not, it's hard to be able to do that when you have people coming and going, and it's a constant rotation of people coming and going all the time, okay? And so that's one aspect to it. So that's why a lot of these martial arts schools, what you'll see is if it's an older teacher, what he'll have is he'll either have a black belt club, or he'll have his senior group, and his senior group doesn't even train at the school. They train at his house because they've been with him for so long. And then they're the ones actually getting the real training. And so that's what you see a lot of times as well. So my talk today is to help provide some information on understanding what has happened. Why is it that martial arts has gone down this path? Well, it's gone down this path because the main idea is that people realized when they came back from in World War II, these soldiers came back, they learned some martial arts over in the East. They came back, they came to the United States, and they realized I could, instead of getting a normal job working at a factory or whatever, I could open up a martial arts school and make money and be able to provide for my family in a different way, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But what they found over time in the 70s, into the 80s, they were pretty hardcore. But when it got into the 90s and insurance policies and people started to sue and things like that, which in some cases lawsuits would be important because maybe there was something that was negligent. That's important. But people started to sue and do lawsuits. And so things started to change. And this is where I say that consumers are actually the ones that manipulated and changed the martial arts. And so one of the things that I think that's super important, I've been doing martial arts since '83. And so I've seen huge changes from the time I was a little kid till now, how martial arts has completely changed the way that they teach everything. The quality of the skills set is very low compared to what it was when I was a kid, okay? And you know, that's an important part. The other part is that our civilization has changed even since the 80s. When I was growing up, I was getting in constant fights. I had to protect myself all the time because of the neighborhood I grew up in. That's a big part of it. People don't fight as much as they used to. They still do, but in some circumstances, but it's a different type of an environment. Some of that is good, you know, but some of that is also forgetting what the reality of combat is all about. And so when we talk about reality, when we talk about reality combat, we want to talk about the fact that Things must be pressure tested. Things must be there must be battle games. You have to have your partner, after you've learned a set of material, you need to be able to test that under high levels of pressure, okay? And find out how well it's gonna work for you, and figure out all the little kinks and work out all the little things that are inside of that you need to develop. And I think that is a big missing part of the martial arts, no matter what style you're doing, okay? And what's gonna happen is, everything should be based on how people are fighting today. So if you watch a series of YouTube fights, for instance, and see how they're fighting each other, and based on that, you should be developing your curriculum. You should be developing all of your curriculum based on how people are attacking, what they're going through, and go from there. So in other words, for instance, we have, for the most part, in a combat situation, you have boxing structure. Person gets into a fight and they box like that. They're not doing any kind of wild kung fu movements like this in a combat situation, in a street altercation or something like that. They're struggling either they're boxing, they're wrestling, or they're falling to the ground and they lose their balance off of a curb or whatever, and they go to the ground with the other person and they're tumbling around and they're fighting, okay? You have to develop skills and practice the battle tests and pressure test each other in each one of those areas. That's truly what reality-based combat training is. And so we can work and we can practice our traditional martial arts, and there's nothing wrong with that, but know where that line crosses and where that line ends when it comes to these traditional martial arts. If you're a traditional martial artist, there's nothing wrong with extending yourself outside of those traditional movements and working on things that you see in situations. That's what I did as a kid. I would either get into a fight and go, man, I haven't learned how to do that, and I would figure it out, or I would see other people get in fights and I would go, ooh, that's not a good position to be in. I need to figure out how to get out of that quick, because if that happens to me, I need to know what to do. I don't want to get my head smashed in. That's the idea, okay? And so you have to start to develop and work out these issues, okay? Instead of being afraid or rejecting anything that's outside of your wheelhouse, you have to say, okay, instead of being afraid, because that's what it is, you have fear. You're afraid because you're like, if you reject something right away, that is fear. That's what we call self-preservation. And out of that self-preservation, we have to say, nope, nope, nope. If I suck at something, or if I'm not good at something, or if somebody's saying something that I don't like, I need to understand why I don't like it. And if I have validity after I've researched in time, okay, that's fine. But if I'm not liking it because it's something I either haven't heard before, or I don't like it because I know deep down inside I can't deal with that problem, then there's something we have to work out. And so self-protection, or reality-based martial arts, okay, and traditional martial arts, they can come together, okay? But it's all about personal accountability. Hope this helps. I'll see you guys next time. Panantukan Level 1. This program is one of the most streamlined. It's over 8.5 hours long. It gives you everything, step by step, everything that you need. Fundamentals breakdown of all the exercises you need. Understanding of empty hand, how to fight without gloves, with gloves. It's going to teach you all the aspects that you need about the foundation and fundamentals of Panantukan. Okay? Unlike what we see a lot of times now in the combatives in the Filipino martial arts world, a lot of techniques, a lot of drills, but how do you make those drills go from the drill to actual real combatives? And that's what this is the first level to that, and getting you set up, learning all the aspects of how do I engage, what's the techniques, what do I need to practice to get myself where I'm able to be adaptable in combat. Okay, that's the most important thing. That's what everybody's looking for. How do I get better? How am I able to adapt when somebody attacks me? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do it? What I'm going to do is I'm giving you a different perspective on Panantukan, unlike what you see in this modern day where you see a lot of drills and exercises. that just don't translate to real combat. I call the meat and potatoes of combat. Not the fluff, not all the extra stuff, but only simply the things that you really need that are gonna help you be effective in combat. But the most important thing in combat is to survive. The most important thing is to be able to adapt, okay? And so that's what this program is all about. This is gonna help you go to that next level. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you've been doing this for 10 years. I'm gonna help fill in those gaps, fill in those holes that you've never learned before. Go to our website, pinnaclecombatarts.com. There you can find out more about what I do and the classes that I provide. Thank you guys so much for your support and have a great day.